Welcome, I'm Mark, this is Yates Makes, channel for people who love making art and want some tips, tricks and techniques. Today we are printmaking. I love printmaking, but I know that it can be really challenging at home with limited materials. So I'm going to share with you a little trick that helped me make all of these prints. Now the magic ingredient that I used in these prints is masking tape. Okay, I'm going to give you a demo now, talk you through a few tips and tricks, shortcuts I found having done the process a few times, and then at the end of the video show you a few bits of artwork, show how I've mixed masking tape in with lino printing, with dry point. Obviously some of those techniques do need a little more equipment though. Okay, if you get to the end and like what you see, learn something, please remember to like, subscribe, so on. Right, let's get into it. Okay, here's the image we're going to develop into a masking tape print. You'll notice that it's very much two-tone, blocked, lots of patterned areas, clear shapes. I chose this image because it's got a lot of fiddly detail, you'll see why. So we're going to be building masking tape on a clear plastic, acetate, perspex, doesn't matter, sheet laid over your drawing. With a single layer of masking tape, start with your most kind of intricate or specific shapes. I've just traced over it there with a fine liner. Now I'm doubling up my layers before I cut my shape out. Doubling up your thickness of masking tape will just give you a little more relief on the surface and keep the ink off of the plastic. When you come to print, I've found double thickness works better than single. It does make cutting a little more tricky, but equally it does make the masking tape a bit more stable and sturdy as well. So there we go, cutting out a fiddly shape first, and once it's done on the cutting mat, you can use an old bit of MDF or whatever, it doesn't have to be a cutting mat, but you do need a sharp knife for this, a decent craft knife or scalpel. Okay, simple as then, just laying it onto the plastic that is fixed over your drawing. Okay, in with another fiddly shape. Get all of these out of the way first if you're doing a similar sort of image. Okay, another tricky cut, and on we go. Alright, where you've got, for example in this picture, repeat shapes that are a little more simple, like the triangles I've used for the scales, you know, you can just pre-prepare these in a long line, cut them out quick, slide the knife under the shape, drop them on, press, you're on. And this is a fairly quick part of the process. Yeah, it's repetitive because I've got a lot of triangles. You know, obviously, as I said, I've chosen quite a tricky image just to give you a flavour of how far you can go in terms of intricacy of shape. Okay, really nice little trick. If you've got a long line anywhere on your print or your drawing, sorry, even if it's curved, cut your thin line as I'm doing here, lay it on, and you'll find you can bend the masking tape around corners really easily. You know, it's a very pliable, workable material. Okay, you can just snip off the end there, and off I go to my next shape. Great. Okay, so how thin can you go? Well, you can go extremely thin. Surprisingly enough, these shapes do not peel off once you start printing. I really thought they would, and was quite surprised that they didn't the first time I tried this. But you know, even these tiny little thin needle-like shapes manage to hang on to the surface of the plastic once you start printing. Okay, there you go, that's where I'm up to, lifting the plastic off the surface of the image so you can see quite nice clean shapes, and they hold up really well when we apply the ink. Okay, once you get way into the process, you'll get a little bit better at just judging shapes. So here I'm just, looking at the shape I need to aim for, sketching it out roughly. It doesn't have to be that exact. You're using your drawing as a guide. Yeah, you don't have to be completely faithful to it. You can deviate a bit from the plan. Keep things moving nice and quick, so you don't have to trace every single little shape. Okay, board flags and clogs. Alright, again, moving on, that's where I'm up to. Alright, the home straight, nearly there. Yeah, it's quite gratifying once you get into it. Just trimming up my edges so it's nice and flush with my borders, and I'm ready to print. Simple materials, cheap water-based printing inks, much easier to clean off. Surprisingly, you can clean this print plate. Obviously it doesn't last as long as a lino. You need something to roll your ink out on, you need your print plate, and we're going to use a wooden spoon to burnish. Okay, let's clear my workspace, off we go. These are water-based inks. If you don't use them for a while, they separate, so give them a good squidge and check what comes out before you put it on your perspex or glass or whatever you're rolling out onto. Going to try a little blend on this print, see how that looks. So get my two colours. Okay, if you've never printed before, it's very really important you don't put too much ink on at once. Okay, you're after a nice thin film of ink on the roller. Okay, do make sure you check a thin film. Better to build the ink up gradually on your print plate, having spent all that time making it, rather than put some whacking great slugs of ink all over it, then have to wash it, dry it, start over. Okay. So you see my roller there, nice thin film of ink. Get it the right way up. Okay, this first print, I always find the first one, same with lino really, or woodcut, until you get a sort of base of ink down, it's always the hardest one to get a clean print out of, but we'll have a go. The wooden spoon burnishing should help, but you'll see me there returning back to my piece of scrap perspex I've got my ink on, just inking that roller up again and building the ink up on the surface of my print plate gradually. Okay, you see some ink has fallen into those sort of negative spaces onto the surface of the plastic. Personally, I don't mind that too much. I quite like, the character you get from it in a print. This isn't as precise as woodcut or lino, so I quite like that character. Obviously check your print plate before you print. I've noticed a couple of bits I missed. Just one last little check. Get rid of that scrap newspaper and ready to get my paper down. Have a go at my first print. So paper down on top. Okay, use your hands, don't let that paper move whilst you're burnishing. So I'm putting a bit of pressure with my right hand there, burnishing with my left. swapping hands, burnish for a little while. Now this is a good tip, peel back in part the print whilst holding it with your other hand just to check it's come out clearly. Looks pretty good, so I can take that off, and actually that's not bad for the first print. Now obviously this material, this process is not going to last as long as a woodcut or a lino, but you'll be amazed at the amount of prints you can get off this. You know, you can get a decent print run, as they're called. You know, I'm going to have a play around with some different papers, but not bad for a quick print with stuff you find lying around the house. Alright, I said I'd share some other prints I've made where I've used masking tape. So here is one where I've mixed the masking tape with dry point. Here I've used masking tape in a layer for the background pattern and parts of the ends of the harmonica. I really enjoyed this next one. I've used the masking tape for both parts of the cassette tape and also the ribbon from the tape that's kind of spooled out and tangled. Again, that's the masking tape mixed with some dry point techniques. So yeah, I've had to use a printing press for that. This next one, bit of illustration I did, and I've used it almost like a colour reduction if you're familiar with that in lino, but I've used the masking tape for the grey base layer, then registered a lino over the top of that. Really like the textures basically that you get from the masking tape with a mid-tone. So there it is, our old friend masking tape. See how you get on with it for yourself. Remember, like, share, subscribe. In comments, give me any requests, whatever techniques you'd like me to cover, I'll have a go. Take it easy. See you soon.